Good Monday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. The Browns continue to interview potential candidates for their defensive coordinator position today. They are talking to Sean Desai. Desai was part of the defensive coordinator area for the Chicago Bears a season ago. Now he is a defensive assistant head coach for the Seattle Seahawks, who were eliminated from the playoffs a bit ago this weekend. And let's check out an article from Mary Kay Cabot. Desai wasn't retained by Matt Eberflus after Matt Nagy was fired following the 2021 season, best known for getting most out of his star players in Chicago. Three-time Pro Bowl defensive end Robert Quinn went from only 2 sacks in 2020 to 18.5 in 2021 under Desai. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Mary Kay, those are the kind of things that grab your attention and the reason why the Browns want to talk to Sean Desai without question.
Yeah, there's so many things to like about Sean Desai, the more you dig into his story and dig into his background. But certainly one of those things would be being able to get the most out of Myles Garrett and really showcasing his skills and making sure that he's living up to his potential, which, really is Hall of Fame potential. So definitely Sean Desai brings a lot to the table. And, he's got coordinator experience. He doesn't have head coaching experience like Brian Flores does and like Jim Schwartz does in this group of 4, but he does have a year as a coordinator under his belt. He did a really nice job with it. And, he's a teacher. He's got a doctorate. And there are so many things about his resume that there are to like.
Over the weekend, word came out that the Browns also interviewed Denard Wilson, Eagles secondary coach, defensive passing game coordinator, for their defensive coordinator's position. Now, Wilson is it's kind of interesting. So let's take a look. This will give us a
We tell the safeties you can zone your quarter. That means that you're to protect the corners on any overs, any crossing routes. So the corners know right now that they're protected by their safeties. So what that allows James and Slay to do right now is be patient, all right, and sit on any underneath route, all right. If any underneath routes occurs, they can go be aggressive and steal it, and the safeties are protecting you for any deep overs, any deep routes. So you see them right now, how patient they are. They open, they're getting ready to go sit, and James sits perfectly. Both of them get connected at the same time. All right, the ball comes out. James make a hell of a break at the top of the route. All right, he gets his hands on it. And Chauncey and Marcus being where they're supposed to be, as safeties, you're responsible for tips and overthrows. And this is a great example of a tip and overthrow. And then the guys converging at the top of the route to attack the ball. In the defensive back room, we talk about attacking the ball with violence, whether it's in a run game or in a pass game. So if the ball's up in the air, it's ours. Go get it. And you see Slays fighting for it right there. It's just a great play of, it was kind of teach tape on the way they played it. It's executed to a T. All right, this is one of my favorite plays we had all year.
And again, Mary Kay, that was from Denard Wilson. Reason he's the secondary coach, passing game coordinator, so that tells you, and you get a little bit of the idea of the aggressiveness that he coaches with there.
Yeah, and they had 17 interceptions this past season. Darius Slay has absolutely raved about him, loves him, made the Pro Bowl a couple of times under his guidance. So, he really feels strongly about him. So absolutely, this is someone that's an excellent candidate. And all of these guys that they have brought in are really, really good candidates. And they have a tough decision to make. But I really do believe that they're going to be headed in the right direction.
All right. So also word out today that Brian Flores is being courted by another organization to be their defensive coordinator, Atlanta Falcons. Flores also a head coaching opportunity with the Panthers. And from your Hey Mary Kay article, what kind of defense does Flores run?
Well, he kind of runs the same kind of defense that Bill Belichick runs. It's really sort of a 3-4 base, but it also can focus, with a 4-3 under. And, the fronts can be very, very multiple. You'll see them do many, many different things. They like to set the edge and then drive things back to the middle. And then from a secondary standpoint, they like all their guys to be very, very versatile in what they can do. Come up and play the run, cover, you name it. They play a lot of nickel, a lot of dime. Everybody does these days, but those are some of the hallmarks of the defense.
Is there a sense of urgency for the Browns to go get a defensive coordinator? Because there is some competition. You're going to have more. The new head coaches will have to fill out their staffs. There will be others that want defensive coordinators. Does that affect the timeline, and where are we in the process, do you think?
Well, I mean, it depends. They could probably decide they want to wrap this up quickly. I suppose they could wait and see what happens with Brandon Staley and see if maybe they wouldn't want to interview him. But I think they're probably going to be getting pretty close to figuring out what they want to do. I think they want to get started in getting this thing turned around. I don't think they want to be, left out in the cold from one of these really amazing coordinator candidates that they have. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't hire their guy this week.
Is it the candidates? They're all intriguing. I mean, each of them you can see what they were thinking, wanting to talk to them. Do you feel that way? I don't want to put words in your mouth. But when I see the quality, I'm like, yeah, I could see what they like about him.
Yeah, I mean, each of them, they all have different qualities. They have different levels of experience. Jim Schwartz is the only one that has a lot of coordinator experience. He's got 14 years of coordinator experience. Now, Flores and Schwartz both have head coaching experience, which it's not a prerequisite, but I think it kind of helps, and it gives you a little bit of cachet in terms of being able to be there for Kevin Stefanski in that way. So there's all different kinds of things that these guys bring to the table. And I think it's just going to be a matter mostly of culture fit. I think the guy that comes in here and really can convince them that he can get the most out of this defense and the current players that you have is the one that they will end up hiring.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that. The defense appears to have talent and to have underachieved. Along those lines, few, if any, Browns fans, and probably few, if any, in the organization would argue that 2022 is a disappointment. I know you addressed this on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Who do you think what's the reason the Browns missed the playoffs? Who's to blame, if you want to say blame or however you want to put it? How did it end up so 2022 ended the way it did?
Well, I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I think you can spread it out amongst a lot of different entities. But more so than anything, I think it falls on the defense. I think it falls on the defense because I think Jacoby Brissett, for the most part, did what he was supposed to do. But the defense and the special teams really didn't do their job or pull their weight. And had they been able to do that, then the Browns could have won at least 2 or 3 more games. And in that scenario, they would have been talking about playoffs. So when I look at the defense alone, I do think that's one of the reasons why the Jadeveon Clowney situation is so vital to talk about and such a big part of the narrative, because you had one of your star players who was not on board with the system. And, he took himself out of the Baltimore game in a very close game, a huge game. And they lost that game 23-20, and he had to be convinced to go in on third downs just because he didn't want to play over Ronnie Stanley after, Myles Garrett was supposed to do that. Then he gets benched the next week and, kind of carries his frustration throughout the season. So I think that had a lot to do with it. And I think it's an important part of the narrative of trying to understand what happened with this Cleveland Browns defense and thus this football team this season.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. It gave you a glimpse into why things seemed a little off, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And, I have a couple people close to Jadeveon wondered why would you write that? Well, that's why you have to write it. It is our job to find answers to what went wrong in a season where you missed the playoffs for the second straight season and your defensive coordinator got fired. You have to find out answers to why these things happened. And of course, I'm sure for the most part, people don't want us to find things out, but this was, as you mentioned, a glimpse, a snapshot into one of the biggest things that happened on defense this season.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, a Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for taking my call. I don't believe in Haslam, and I do believe that they had set something up so that the 3 first-round draft picks, they was going to get them back. And we'll be back on the bottom again until Haslam is gone. And that's my belief. I just don't believe in Haslam. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, I understand a little bit where fans are coming from, but since he feels like he has gotten it right in terms of a general manager and a head coach, Jimmy Haslam has done everything you could ask him to. He went out and he's certainly willing to spend money to keep the star players that they've acquired.
Well, I mean, the thing that you can say about the Haslams and this ownership group is that they keep trying to get it right over and over, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to get it right. And that means, as you mentioned, spending money on players, going out and acquiring a quarterback like Deshaun Watson and giving him $230 million guaranteed, the first fully guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL, and at the time, the largest quarterback contract. So they are definitely willing to continue to do everything that they can to put a winning product on the football field. Sometimes they miss the mark. Sometimes they don't put the right group of people together, but it's not for lack of trying. All they really want to do is win and bring a Super Bowl to Cleveland.
Yeah, and again, if you can see that, again, I understand the frustration just because the playoff appearances have been so few and far between for the franchise. Again, you addressed this in a Hey Mary Kay. Do you have faith that the front office is going to get this turned around and headed back? The conventional wisdom is it's harder to be better, to go from mediocre to an elite team than to go from the bottom to mediocre.
It's hard to say, which one of those two things is more difficult. But I will say, I do think that these guys are going to get this thing turned around. The first order of business is to hire a really good defensive coordinator that can rehabilitate and pull this splintered defense back together. And I think it is that. I think it's splintered. I mean, I've sat in press conferences waiting for the coach to come out, and I've heard guys screaming at each other at the top of their lungs in the locker room. We've just, we know that at least 5 guys, probably 4 or 5 guys were disciplined and had to be benched for the beginnings of games for various things that they did wrong, including, Myles Garrett for one of those games, Jadeveon, Perrion Winfrey, Grant Delpit. So, these things have got to stop. But I think if they get the defense straightened around, and if the front office can add about 3 key more positions, and I mean high-level positions, and that is a really good Pro Bowl receiver, a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle, and a really good number 2 edge rusher, they should be able to get this thing turned around for next year.
All right. Again, another from the Hey Mary Kay questions. Do you think the Browns would be willing to trade Wyatt Teller in order to get a defensive lineman? Similar situation where they traded Kevin Zeitler for Olivier Verne in 2019. Returns on that one are questionable, I guess.
I just don't see that happening. I think they really believe in Wyatt. I think that they early on identified in the Andrew Berry regime that they were going to build tough through the lines, the offensive and defensive lines. They put a lot of money into those areas. They actually obviously need to beef up the defensive line now, but they're in pretty darn good shape on their offensive line, having just extended Jack Conklin, and they'll probably re-sign Ethan Posick. And I just think that I just don't think that they're going to want to get rid of a good young player in the prime of his career when they really feel that they're just about in that Super Bowl window and they need to protect Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, Teller, again, because he started for a few years, people tend to overlook he's still a young player. Browns' big predictions for the offseason. This is from ESPN.com. The Browns will sign Yannick Ngakoue to a big contract in an attempt to get a bookend pass rusher who they think can take attention away from Myles Garrett. They might need to restructure Garrett's contract, free up short-term cap space, make it happen. Ngakoue had 9.5 sacks 2022 with the Indianapolis Colts. Thoughts on Ngakoue or a guy of that ilk?
Well, I don't know if you remember or not, but I was really high on him in a couple of the previous signing periods. I thought that he would be a really, really great addition to the Cleveland Browns. And he wanted to come here too. He really wanted to come here, and it just kind of fell through. At one point he was sort of in between agents and it just didn't work out, the timing and whatnot. But they liked him, he liked them. And I think that was one of those unfortunate misses because again, he's still in the prime of his career, good young player, and I think he would be great in this defense.
All right, again, something I know you've addressed in the Hey Mary case. So how do Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry address the needs of the defense against the importance of kind of adding weapons for Deshaun Watson with the limited amount of money that they're going to have?
Well, hopefully for them that, I think they should be in sort of decent shape enough on offense that they can get by with that one real sort of elite receiver to add in there into the mix. If they can do that, they probably will be okay on the offensive side of the ball, although I don't think it can hurt to add 2 receivers actually and maybe a tight end. But for the most part, I think they're okay on that side of the ball. So I don't think you have to commit too many resources. On the defensive side of the ball, they have to get at least that one defensive tackle, that one edge rusher, and you have to figure out what's going on with your linebackers and make sure that enough of them are going to come back healthy that they can be who you need them to be in 2023.
Do you think they have the ability to extend out some of those contracts or restructure them to create the cap space that they need? There's a number of guys they can go to try to do that.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's got double-digit millions for next year, I think you could look at those guys as somebody that, you could approach and see if there's anything that you could do to, spread some money out a little bit and lower some cap numbers, give some upfront money or whatever the case may be. But, this team is really, really good at managing the cap, managing the money, and adding the parts that they need to and not running out of resources to do that.
When you look at what they need in edge rusher, defensive tackle, wide receiver, do you think any of those are going to be the big ticket, the big dollar sign free agents, or do you think they're more in the mid-level of guys that, might be looking for a bounce back type of year?
I think maybe at least 1 or 2 of them can be in that category of the bigger name, higher priced free agents. I mean, if a Deron Payne became available, if I were the Browns, I would do whatever it would take to land somebody like that. or maybe you go out and you get someone in a trade, but you don't really want to give up too much in terms of your own personnel. And they don't have those first round picks for the next 2 years. So you have to kind of be judicious about how you go about that. But I would throw some money at a defensive tackle, and I'd throw some money at a receiver.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I. Going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a look at some guys that the Browns might try to renegotiate or possibly move on from. Sports4CLE, I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, guys. Fantastic show. I enjoy it, and I think so many others obviously do as well. Everybody seems to know that we need two things as far as players. Defensive tackles, whether it's a humongous nose tackle or a couple of D tackles, need some big talent. And next best thing would be someone to take the top off of a defense. Don't have that burner as well as Cooper did and Peoples-Jones. Imagine how much better they can do with somebody who can actually play wide receiver, get open, run routes, catch the ball. This team could be devastating in the pass game. And lastly, I know we need the tackles. But one of the reasons the tackles look so bad is because we have small linebackers. So maybe some heavier, hard-hitting linebackers would have also helped the situation and not made the tackles look so awful. All right. Thanks a lot.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, we've kind of talked a little bit about those. When you're talking about a wide receiver, do you think they need somebody who you can get the ball to in space who threatens the defense? We've talked about Tyreek Hill, and I know that's a deep threat, but I think it's even more of a threat if you get somebody like that. That's what they need. Get the ball to somebody who can put pressure on the defense.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of finding that receiver, I would really focus on speed, someone that can really stretch the defense and and strike a little fear into the D. That would be tough to handle if you've got, Donovan and Amari and somebody that was really, really fast that you had to worry about and was also super reliable, because you just don't know if Anthony Schwartz is going to be able to be that for you yet. I'm sure they'll give him another chance, but you can't count on him yet. So they need somebody with that speed, to bring that dangerous element, and I think they'll try to find that guy.
In terms of defensive tackles and linebackers, I think there was just a mismatch. I think the defensive tackles were a little undersized and the linebackers were a little undersized. Do you see that maybe getting tweaked philosophically?
Yeah, it might. I think it will depend on the new coordinator and what he needs to run his defense effectively. And I've been saying this on our pods and whatever, that the new D coordinator has got to be really honest about what he sees in regards to the talent level that he will be inheriting, and be really, really honest about what he's going to need. You can't go into this trying to people please and just get the job. You've got to be able to tell it like it is and explain what you're seeing. And if you've overrated any of your players, the candidates should be honest with them and let them know, because that's the only way they're going to be able to improve this defense is by adding the personnel that they really need. So I do think that, it will come down to what those guys need and want. But I also think that, it will help to get some guys back healthy. I think they will re-sign Sione Takitaki. They have to hope that JOK can come back right away, strong and healthy, and then they'll add from there.
All right, another guy is John Johnson III. What do you think the probability is of restructuring his contract, or if the Browns try to trade him, what do you think the compensation might be?
Not exactly sure what the compensation would be for a JJ3, but I do think something will happen with him. There will be some conversation. There will be some decision that will have to be made on him because he's got a $13.5 million cap hit for next season. Now, the new coordinator might come in and look at JJ3 and say, that's the kind of guy I need, and I think I can get more out of him, and I think, that we can be more versatile with him and give him more things to do. If that happens, then, maybe not a lot does happen with the contract. But it just seems like, those guys in that category that are making that much money are going to be looked at, and some of them will be asked to restructure. Some of them will possibly be, moved, released, whatever. Now, he would be a June 1st consideration because they can save $9.75 million, I think it is, if he's released after June 1st. So these are some things to consider, but, I think he's a good player, and it would be nice if they could find a way to keep him.
Yeah, and use him effectively. All right, do you think Kevin Stefanski continues to call plays for Deshaun Watson 2023? Again, this was part of a Hey Mary Kay that you did.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you get to this point with your play caller and your quarterback, and you finally have your elite quarterback, and you're then just going to go give up play calling duties without seeing what that alliance could look like. And, I think that Andrew Berry is very intrigued by Kevin Stefanski calling plays for Deshaun Watson. And I think they would like to see how this looks when they put those two guys together and put it out there when they've had a whole offseason together, and then they should have a full season together next year. So now is not the time to pull the plug on that if Kevin Stefanski wants to continue to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. That makes a lot of sense. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, this is Rico. Now, I know most fans and some media members would love the idea of the Browns trading for Hopkins, but I want to say a few things that might deter some people for wanting to trade for him. He's 31 years old, soon to be 32, and only 2 years left on his contract. Now, since he only has 2 years left on his current contract, it won't cost that much draft capital to acquire him. But in my opinion, he'll be looking for an extension of some sort. And do the Browns really have the resources to sign him into an extension? Also, it will take away targets from Cooper, DPJ, Njoku, and other players. The Browns have so many other more pressing needs that trading for a star like Hopkins would hinder them from acquiring other players that they sorely need. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, but if they did pull off the trade, I wouldn't be mad. I'm just trying to warn fans that it might not be all sunshines and rainbows if we acquire him. Thanks.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, you can never have too many targets. I don't know that it gets what they really need skill set wise, though.
Well, I mean, a player of that caliber is going to be able to help you. I just don't know if they have the resources. I mean, they don't have a first-round pick this year. They don't have a first-round pick next year. And as you mentioned, he's going to be 32. And generally, receivers, you start to see them start to decline around that age. Not all do. Some of them can continue on at a very, very high level. But for the most part, you start to see a little bit of drop off. So, it wouldn't necessarily be a long-term proposition, and you'd probably have to give up significant resources. So at this point, I don't see it happening, but I also wouldn't rule anything out.
Yeah. And again, he's a really good receiver. Let's start there. So if you give Deshaun Watson another really good receiver, you find a way to make it work.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have too many weapons, and you can't supply Deshaun Watson with too many weapons. You look at Joe Burrow and what he has, and on any given play, he's got all these amazing pass catchers out there, and it's very, very helpful to have that. And you can say that a quarterback can elevate the play of players around him, but if that play is already at a very, very high level, it makes it easier on everyone.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight, Mary Kay. Appreciate it very much.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, always great stuff. Make sure you check her out in the Plain Dealer and on cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Straight ahead, Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Browns continue to interview candidates for their defensive coordinator position. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave. Watch the weekend's games. For the most part, it seemed like I was watching the coaches being grandmasters at chess, and the players were the pieces, and thinking how Stefanski, this is probably an exaggeration, but is he playing checkers while the other coaches are playing chess? And that might be a little bit rough on him, but I think that there's some truth to that. And you're talking about how this coaching staff, this brain trust, the general manager, how they're better than anything we've had since blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that was true of Baker Mayfield, too, but somehow that wasn't good enough. And keep in mind, the players are the pieces, the coaching staff, and the head coach in particular has to be the grandmaster. So please get off of this good enough is good enough when it wasn't for Baker Mayfield. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let me know how Baker Mayfield does. You obviously didn't watch many Rams games after that Thursday night game. He was not good. I watched him. Let's welcome him, Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, if you went back 2 years ago and watched the playoff games, you would have said Kevin Stefanski and the Browns brain trust were the wizards and everybody else was playing checkers. Again, let's see what happens with the hot young teams next year.
Yeah, if you wanted to criticize Kevin Stefanski's play calling or his in-game decisions or his timeout utilizations inside of a vacuum, that's fair and I'll listen to it. But I can't watch any of the things that happened this weekend and make it a referendum on Kevin Stefanski. I don't think those two things correlate to me. Like, if you're unable to watch an NFL game that the Browns aren't playing in and somehow make it an indictment on what the Browns are doing, like to me, that's just a miserable way to watch football. If anything, I watched those games like the game last night, and you see the Ravens face off against the Bengals, and the Browns went 1-1 against both those teams. And just a month ago, you beat the Ravens, more convincingly than the Bengals did last night. And everyone thinks the Bengals are a Super Bowl contender, which they probably are. So the Browns really aren't as far off as it seems. So I think people just need to kind of get out of that cloud of negativity.
All right, this from Pro Football Focus. Each team's biggest surprise of 2022. For the Browns, Martin Emerson, a 72.5 Pro Football Focus grade. Despite not recording an interception this season, Emerson allowed just an 85.6 passer rating. Opponents completed only 53.9% of their targets when throwing at him in 2022. All really impressive numbers, and Emerson played a whole lot more as a rookie due to injuries than I thought he would.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have thought those numbers would have been lower. It felt like that watching him throughout the year. And, even the catches he gave up, he was always in position. He's right there. He definitely belongs. I'm going to pump the brakes on getting too, overly enthusiastic about his upward bound limits, because I was feeling the same way about Greg Newsome after last year. But, he definitely fits a different need that cornerback room didn't have. He's physical. He just provides a different element to that cornerback room. And we should be excited to see these young guys grow together.
Yeah, I would agree. Cautionary tale with the really good rookie years. JOK was the same way. I thought, and injuries may have slowed him down and whatnot. All right, let's take a look at this. Donovan Peoples-Jones, and we're going to compare year 2 and year 3. So 2 years ago to last year. So in year 2, 58 targets, 34 catches, 597, and 3 touchdowns. Last year, 96 targets, 61 catches, 839, and 3 touchdowns. So you see the targets and catches and yardage all improve. The touchdowns stay consistent. What's going to be interesting to me, Casey, is seeing he has the body type and the makeup to be a red zone threat. And we haven't seen that yet. The way he goes after contested catches and his size.
Yeah, that's a portion of his game that hasn't been unlocked yet. But yeah, I'm excited about his trajectory. I mean, you look at the growth right there. I think he's a player that it's not out of the question that he should see maybe 110, 120 targets next season. Crack that 1,000-yard mark, maybe score 6-7 touchdowns. I think that's where he's headed. And I think out of all the skill positions, I think he would probably be the biggest benefactor if the Browns were to add a true speed element to this offense, because he's not a separator. He's got tremendous body control. He's got great hands. He's really good on the boundary. But I think if they were to add another speed element, I think it would really open up the field, create better spacing, and he would benefit greatly.
Yeah, and he's a guy, it'll be interesting to see how he develops with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback as well, because I think a full year and lots of practice time will only he's the type of receiver who's going to be where you need him to be, and more times than not he's going to catch the ball. And quarterbacks that are elite like those guys, they find a way to find them.
Yeah, you needed a contested catch guy, and I mean he definitely fits that mold. And it's all about getting on the same page with Watson, and he's just going to continue to grow.
All right, this from Pro Football Focus. One offensive free agent each team should pursue in the offseason. For the Browns, they say wide receiver Zach Pascal. Cleveland already spending a ton of money on the offense, so adding a utility player like Pascal, exactly the type of move they should be looking for. Almost an 80% run blocking grade over 5 seasons. 4th best among wide receivers. Perfect fit to aid the Browns' rushing attack. What do you think of Pascal? It's a guy that really hasn't gotten an opportunity to shine, so to speak.
It really doesn't move the needle for me, to be honest. If his best attribute's that of a run blocker, this team's transitioning to being more of a passing attack. I think they should get receivers that reflect that. If you're looking at free agents, look at someone like Darius Slayton, or even a lesser-known player like Greg Dortch out in Arizona. I think that would fit what the Browns need much better. And there's even players like Alan Lazard or DJ Chark, I think, would all fit the bill better than Zach Pascal.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're going to, again, you don't pay a quarterback $230 million guaranteed to hand the ball off. That is insane. So they're going to become a passing team, I believe.
Yeah, your receivers, it's a plus if they can, aid in the run game through blocking, but that can't be like their biggest benefit to your team.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason and take a look at some free agents. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, guys, it's Buddy. It's been a long time since the Browns had that scary guy. I know Myles Garrett, but that's different. I'm talking about middle of the field in the secondary, especially linebacker. And I'm wondering if it's because the game has become so much more of a finesse game. Now, a linebacker is more important if he can cover a running back or a tight end on a pass play than lay you out. Maybe because of targeting and making the game so much softer and easier to get a unsportsmanlike or a late hit or whatever. I'd like to see the Browns get a little tougher, a lot tougher.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Casey, that's a fair point in terms of a guy in the middle of the field. But to his point, I think that's the reason why, because you run a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets and they run all over the place.
Yeah, the game has kind of phased out the Ray Lewis types. It's about east and west and being able to cover. But teams did go more north and south this year, and you've seen the teams with physical players up the middle be able to stuff things. I think that's the reason Reggie Ragland looked so good towards the end of the season. He was able to, fit that need and be that thumper. And the Browns really don't have one. Talkie provides some of those elements as well. So I think you need all types. You definitely need linebackers that can cover. You need JOKs. You need Anthony Walkers, but I think they need to supplement with some hammers up the middle. I'm hopeful they'll re-sign Talkie and definitely give Ragland another look this year.
Yeah, and again, we've talked a couple of times, the mismatch between defensive tackle and linebacker, light did not work. Hopefully they've changed what they're thinking there. And Mary Kay brought up a good point saying it's going to be the new defensive coordinator's call.
Yeah, he's going to have to evaluate the personnel and see if it fits what he needs. And they're going to have to go grocery shopping for whoever that guy ends up being. And like you said, light didn't work. You can't be light at defensive tackle and linebacker. So they have to, beef up one of those. And I would be more inclined to think that'll be the defensive tackle.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Along those lines, let's take a look at 4 defensive linemen that the Browns should target in free agency. This is from BrownsWire.com. We've talked about this guy a lot. Deron Payne, currently with the Washington Commanders. Another name is Javon Hargrave. And then this guy is a local kid from Ohio State and St. Ignatius. Draymond Jones. And then Dalvin Tomlinson is another one. When you look at those, who do you like a lot? Who do you think, that might not work?
I mean, I look at that list, and obviously Deron Payne jumps off the list, but I think he's a prime candidate to get franchise tagged in Washington, if not, even a flat-out, full-up contract. If you're looking at that list, I definitely think there's some intriguing names. But there's other names out there as well, Onyemata with the Saints. Big Fletcher Cox is going to be up this year for the Eagles, and I think if you're looking to rent a guy that can really do that damage up the middle, I think that's one candidate. Linval Joseph, that would probably be my pick off that list in particular.
All right, 3 players that could be cap casualties for the Browns from BrownsWire.com. Joe Haeg, a backup offensive lineman. Jakeem Grant, kick returner who was injured all year, and John Johnson III, the safety, one of the big-name free agents a few years ago. When you look at those, who do you think? Do you think any of those are most likely to be cap casualties?
I don't think any fan would bat an eye if Joe Haeg got cut. I don't think most fans even know who that is. But I think John Johnson's probably the most likely, because I think if he's a post-June 1st designation, I think it's close to $9 million they would save. So I think that becomes a viable option. I want to be sad if Jakeem Grant, if we don't get to see that guy in a Browns uniform, there was big hopes. He was the guy that was brought here to flip the field and be that true gadget guy on offense. Someone that you kind of have to manufacture touches for, but the defense has to respect, whether it's quick outs, end arounds, reverses, screens. He would give your offense a different element that they didn't have this year. So I'll be sad if he ends up going before we get to see him play in a Browns uniform.
Yeah, the special teams just, again, they were not good. They need to be addressed. All right, 3 attention-grabbing trade proposals. This from Dog Pound Daily. We'll do number 3 first. Browns trade a 2023 6th-round pick, 2024 5th-round pick, and Myles Garrett to the Cowboys for a 2023 1st and 5th round picks, 2024 2nd and 4th round picks, and safety Jaron Kearse. I wouldn't do that. You can't trade Myles Garrett if you say your Super Bowl window is open. Can't do it.
No, I don't trade a future Hall of Famer who's in the prime of his powers, for anyone. The Browns have a quarterback under contract, but in some fictional world, would I have traded, Myles for Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, probably. But in the reality, whatever first round pick you get out of Myles Garrett, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? Probably not. It's hit or miss. I don't give up Myles Garrett for anything.
All right, this second one, Browns trade Jedrick Wills and a 2024 5th-round pick to the Bears for a 2023 2nd-round pick and a 2024 5th and 6th-round picks. I don't know if I'd do that either. Left tackles, it's important.
It depends on how they feel about him behind the walls of Berea. Do they feel they have a future in him past, say, his 5th-year option? If they're hopeful that he is going to take that next step and develop into that, all-perennial left tackle, then no, by all means you don't. But if they're unsure and they can get a 2nd round and a 6th round, because they'd be swapping 5ths in that scenario, I can see them entertaining it. But, that all depends on how they feel about Jed. If they feel his trajectory is on pace where they think it should be, then you don't touch that.
All right, and the third and final one, Browns trade John Johnson III and a 2024 7th-round pick to the Eagles for 2023 5th-round pick, 2024 6th and 7th-round picks. What do you think of that one?
Well, you'd be getting rid of a contract and gaining a 5th and a 6th. You'd be swapping 7ths in that scenario. So if you're looking to get out of that contract and you were thinking about outright cutting them, and of course you would trade them for 2 picks. It just seems to make sense. I don't know if you're going to get that for him, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, if you think you want to move on from him, a 5th and a 6th and swapping 7ths, okay. you'd basically be getting something to get out of the contract is what you would be. You'd find somebody to take his contract on, lack of a better word, to do it. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Sports for CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Would you mind explaining what exactly the hierarchy does as far as work and authority for the owners and then the GM, maybe to the head coach? Because so many times when you hear how dysfunctional Cleveland is, I don't really know where the blame is supposed to go or what is the problem as far as what their responsibilities are. So that's one thing I was hoping you could do, because I don't think I fully understand it.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Casey, I guess the easiest way to describe it is Stefanski coaches the players, calls the plays, is in charge of game day. Andrew Berry has the final say on personnel. And Jimmy Haslam has to say, yeah, I will pay these guys. That's the easiest way I can explain it.
Jimmy's the pockets. Andrew picks the groceries. Kevin has to cook. That's the way I would break it down for you.
And again, relative to that, who's to blame for the situation that's happened the last 2 years, do you think?
Everyone wants this one-size-fits-all scapegoat scenario where you can point to it. And Joe Woods was the fall guy for last year, make no mistake. But, it's everybody, Barry definitely misevaluated the importance of certain positional groups, and it bit the Browns in a major way. And Stefanski didn't get the most out of his players. And then you got to look at the players. There's certain players on this team that didn't hold up their end of the bargain either. So it's a cumulative effort. It's never just one thing. Now, it's easy. You want it to believe it's one thing so you can just fix that one thing. But they have to shore up several areas. And that's what this whole off season is going to be about. Reevaluating their process from top to bottom, the way they view positional groups, the type of players they're going after, the athletes they profile, how Stefanski utilizes the talent once he has it in-house, and getting the most out of these players. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I would imagine that Andrew Berry goes to the coaching staff, Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods, whomever the defense, to find out, okay, what type of players do you need to do this? And then he goes and finds those type of players. So you're right, they didn't get the right players, the players didn't play, and the coaches didn't coach well enough.
Yep. Yeah, in a nutshell, that was 2022, wasn't it?
Other than that, everything's great.
Yeah. They have to start soon because the Senior Bowl is right around the corner, so this process ramps up fast. So they got to pick this DC and get it rolling.
All right, this is from ESPN.com. Browns under the radar offseason priority. However it happens, Cleveland needs to find a way to finally make its special teams a positive. Had just one return for TD. Kicker Cade York was among the NFL's worst in field goal percentages at 75%. I agree wholeheartedly. The special teams was not good. It was bad. It was probably bottom third of the league.
Yeah, I was settled for just being a wash, let alone a positive. You can't let it hurt you, you know. But for them to say the Browns only had one touchdown return, there's only 3 punts returned on the season in the NFL, and the Browns had one of them. So, and they attempted to address that. That was Jakeem Grant's role, and he never made it to the season. So they attempted to improve on that. And we need Cade York to be more consistent. You know, he was a rookie, and as a whole, I think as a fan base, we put too much eggs in that basket that he was just going to be this perennial all-pro from day one because he was drafted, but that's not the case. And he needs to work that out. Now, he finished on a strong note, so hopefully he can keep that through the offseason and get on to next year with a more consistent mindset. And 75% is not good enough in the NFL. You need honestly close to as 90 as possible. And also to be more money on long kicks, because that's why he was brought here. He wasn't brought here to hit chip shots. He was brought here to change the field and, you know, steal points at the end of halves. So that 50 and beyond, he needs to improve there.
All right. When the Browns look at upgrading, what are the most critical? What areas do they need to upgrade immediately and significantly?
I'll give you 3. I got defensive tackle first and foremost. They got to get that short up. They got to figure out a way to get some guys up there that can play bully ball. I think the safety room, I think that's the next big upgrade. I think they need to build around Grant Delpit's skill set. They need to bring in some true free safeties and another box safety and allow to kind of weaponize Delpit and allow him to move and get the most out of his skills, because he's not just one thing. He can do multiple, but I think he's better towards the box of being an attacking type player. And then they need a speed option at wide receiver. They need a true threat the defenses have to honor. They need to open up the field and create more spacing for the players and create easier passing opportunities for Deshaun Watson. When they're playing everything all congested, it's tight and it's hard. And if Deshaun's not processing fast enough, those windows become non-existent. So they need someone that can really open things up for them.
When you look at that, what do you think could take the offense to an elite level? I mean, when you look at the pieces, Cooper, Watson, Chubb, the offensive line, it's pretty good. What do you think can elevate that?
It's going to be a group effort, and it's going to take Stefanski kind of understanding the quarterback that he's calling plays for. You know, he's been calling plays for Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, and Deshaun's a different animal. He needs to figure out how to utilize that to get the most out of Deshaun's unique abilities. But the thing, there's an X factor. Because Deshaun's ability to keep a play going, there's different rules for the receivers and the line. You know, the play's not over. You know, it's not over until the whistle blows. So don't give up, because he's going to scramble and make things happen. So the line needs to stay active. You know, look for work. That's the first thing there. And then with the receivers, these guys should have been practicing the scramble drill since the first time they put their helmets on. But it's going to be a little different with Watson, because you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone in those plays, because the big plays can happen out of that. You know, I know he looked like he's scrambling for his life, but he's looking to hit a big play there. So the receivers need to be on the same page, and that only comes through repetition. So they need to work that out this summer, because I think that could be a very explosive element of the offense, that, you know, doing the stuff that's not on the paper. That's what Watson brings to the table.
It also seems like they never get the ball to a wide receiver in space. Is that, you think that's because they don't have anybody to stretch it vertically? Is that part of the problem?
That is part of the problem, but it's not the entire problem. Like that's schematic as well, because you have someone like Cooper who just creates separation naturally through his, you know, phenomenal route running, and they need to take advantage of that more. You know, double moves, things of that nature. I think that's the next step of this offense. I think that's what you can expect to see in the full offseason. I think you'll see more of that next year going into 2023. But yeah, the speed element's definitely lacking, and if they don't have that, they're going to be playing in a phone booth again, and that just puts a ceiling on your offense.
Casey Kinnamon, as always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Casey.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily. Make sure you check him out. Always really good stuff. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.